Good morning, everyone. Today we will extend the discussion we started last week about how to control the data. And if you remember last week, we talked about the types of fraud and hacking we might have it on the data. And this week we will extend the discussion by saying how can we make internal control to our database, to our information system, and the control environment. So in this chapter, we will discuss the control and accounting information system. First, we need to identify the threat that might happen to the information system and the environment, because if we don't know the threat, we don't know what kind of control we need to do. Usually we say the threat is the adverse occurrence to the organization or the accounting information system, and it has two components. First, the impact of the threat, which can be measured in financial amount. Second, the likelihood or the probability that is associated with the threat. And we usually say the expected loss that could happen to the company is taking the impact, which is the financial loss, multiplied by the percentage of the likelihood that might happen. And as you see here, that we will talk about three different items before we address the different framework of control. The first item we need to discuss is the types of controls. What kind of control we need to do it. Second, the levers of control, and here I talk about the systems that we need to create and the control we need to build. Third is the acts and rules that has been issued by the US government to enforce the internal control among all the companies, especially the public corporation. So here, if we talk about types of control, we have the internal control, which is the process and the procedures that we do it to ensure that the company objective has been achieved. And we split the control here into general control and application control. The general control is the one designed to make sure an organization's information system and control environment is stable and well managed. So in brief, we say general control is related to the hardware, to the assets that we have it in the company. The application control is the one we initiate to prevent, detect, and correct any error that might happen to the transaction or the application program. So this will take us to the next part, which is the preventive control. Preventive control is the type of control we do it to deter or prevent the fraud from happening, from errors happening. However, detect is the control designed to discover control problems and try to correct it. How can we make the corrective control is identify the problem and start to take the different possible solutions to do the correction. The next point is the levers of control. And as you can see, for the levers, we have two different systems, the belief system and the boundary system. And the control, we have diagnostic control and interactive control. So what do we mean by belief system? Belief system is addressing the mindset of the employees, of the management. It's the system that describes how a company creates value, helps employees to understand management's vision, communicates company core value, and inspire employees to live by those values. And for that reason, we have to make boundary, and this is where we came with the word boundary system. We put boundaries on employees' behavior to help them to act ethically towards one another and towards their line of authority. Then it will take us to the diagnostic control. The diagnostic control is the system that measures, monitors, and compares actual company progress to the budget performance goals. So here we put the budget we created at the beginning of the year, the actual performance, and try to diagnose the problem. Where is the problem happen? And then we make interaction control between the management and the employees to ensure that the employees' focus is on the strategic issue and they are involved in every decision. So it takes out the eyes of the employees from the operational details to look at the strategic goal. And there are several issues that have been issued by the US federal government. Back in 1997, there was Foreign Corrupt Practice Act that has been issued to prevent companies from bribing foreign officials to obtain business. And this was the sparkling shot that requires all public company owned to maintain a system of internal accounting control. This was actually the beginning movement of enforcing internal control on the public company. The board of directors has to initiate the policy and the management has to take it into practice. And if you remember back in 2002, at the downfall of Enron, Sarbanes-Oxley Act came as a legislation to prevent financial statement fraud, make financial reports more transparent, provide protection to investors, and strengthen internal control at public companies. So part of the provisions of Sarbanes-Oxley Act is to ensure there is internal control system, which is, as I said earlier, initiated by the board, but enforced by the management. And during the year also, they initiated the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, and their mandate is to check the work of the public auditor to ensure that their auditor is going to the quality standard. So the PCAOB was controlling the auditor's report to ensure that they are up to the standard. So this is in a nutshell the three items we need to be aware before we go to the internal control framework. First is to identify the risk. Second is to check the controls. Third, to check the system and the controls, which we call it levers of controls. And finally, the acts and rules. I will address the framework in a different video clipping. So I will leave you for now and I'll come back to you soon. Thank you.